Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before we begin this remarkable journey, I want to ask you something important. Have you ever wondered why Iblis, who travels across the earth, whispers to billions and influences countless hearts, cannot find the tomb of Prophet Ibrahim a.s.? A being with such reach, such cunning, and such determination is suddenly powerless before a single sacred mystery? What makes this one resting place completely invisible to him? What divine protection surrounds it? And what does this teach us about Allah's power, the rank of the prophets, and the unseen world that exists around us? In today's narration, we will uncover the answers step by step. We will explore Ibrahim's unique spiritual rank, the limits that Allah places on Iblis, the unseen barriers surrounding sacred places, and the divine wisdom behind concealing prophetic graves. By the end of this series, you will understand not only why Iblis cannot find the tomb of Ibrahim a.s., but also what lessons this teaches us about faith, protection, and the reality of the unseen. Before we continue, I have a request for you. If you find topics like these enlightening, topics that connect our faith with the unseen world, deepen our understanding of the prophets, and strengthen our relationship with Allah, then make sure to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps this knowledge reach more people, and it motivates us to continue producing beneficial content. And I would love to know something about you as well. Where are you watching from? Which country, city, or region are you joining this discussion from? Let me know in the comments below. It's always inspiring to see how believers from around the world gather to seek knowledge together. Now, take a moment to reflect. If Allah can protect the tomb of Ibrahim a.s. from the reach of Iblis, what does that say about the power of divine protection? And how can we, as believers, seek that protection in our own lives? To understand why Iblis cannot locate the tomb of Prophet Ibrahim a.s., we must begin with the extraordinary rank that Allah granted him. Among all the prophets, Ibrahim a.s. holds a distinct and unparalleled position. He is known in the Quran as Khalilullah, meaning the intimate friend of Allah, a title given to only one other prophet, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This level of closeness to the Creator is not merely symbolic. It reflects a profound spiritual reality that shapes the way Allah protects and honors His chosen servants. Throughout his life, Ibrahim a.s. demonstrated absolute loyalty, trust, and submission to Allah. From a young age, he rejected the idol worship of his people. He stood firm against false belief even when isolated and opposed by his own family. He confronted a tyrannical king, challenged an entire society, and faced severe trials that would break most men. Yet Ibrahim a.s. remained unwavering, guided by certainty in Allah's wisdom and power. The Quran repeatedly highlights his sincerity, his resilience, and his deep reliance on Allah. He is described as a leader, a role model for believers, a nation in himself, and someone whose heart was purified. These descriptions underline a level of honor and spiritual elevation that sets him apart from most of humanity. Because of his exceptional faith and devotion, Allah granted Ibrahim a.s. special forms of both worldly and spiritual protection. This protection did not end with his life. It continues after his death. The prophets, by divine wisdom, are guarded in ways that extend beyond physical boundaries. Their resting places, legacies, and even their bodies receive a level of honor that ordinary people do not. Allah decrees that the prophets' bodies do not decay in the earth as others do, and their graves are surrounded with blessings. This special protection naturally includes security from the reach of Iblis. Allah sets limits upon Iblis, and he cannot cross those limits. One of these boundaries is the protection surrounding prophets like Ibrahim a.s. It is not a form of protection that can be physically seen or measured, but rather a divine barrier rooted in spiritual wisdom. It prevents Iblis and his forces from approaching, harming, or even locating the exact position of certain sacred sites. The case of Ibrahim as is a clear example. The honor and rank he holds with Allah ensure that his resting place is veiled, preserved, and shielded from all forms of evil. Iblis, despite his abilities and knowledge, cannot penetrate the protection that Allah places over his prophets. Thus, the first and foundational reason Iblis cannot locate the tomb of Ibrahim is simple yet profound. Allah honors his closest servants with protection that no creation can overcome. Although Iblis was granted certain abilities, such as movement across vast distances and the capacity to whisper into the hearts of humans, these abilities are not unlimited. In Islam, every creature, including Iblis, operates strictly within the boundaries that Allah has set. Nothing that Iblis does falls outside of Allah's permission. Understanding these limits is essential to understanding why he cannot locate the tomb of Prophet Ibrahim a.s. The Quran clearly shows that Iblis, after refusing to bow to Adam, asked Allah for the ability to influence humans until the Day of Judgment. Allah granted him respite, but not unrestricted power. Instead, Allah defined the scope of what Iblis could and could not do. This means that even in his rebellion, Iblis remains under Allah's control. His access, movements, and influence are all governed by divine law. Among the most important of these boundaries is the prohibition against harming the prophets or interfering with their divine status. Allah protects his prophets not only during their lifetimes, but also after their deaths. This protection includes their bodies, their graves, their honor, and their legacies. As a result, places connected to the prophets are often surrounded by layers of unseen spiritual protection. Iblis may be able to influence weak hearts, sow doubt, or push people toward disobedience, but when it comes to the prophets of Allah, his abilities stop completely. He cannot approach them, touch them, disturb them, or corrupt anything related to them. The more elevated the prophet is, the stronger the divine protection surrounding them becomes. This is especially true for Prophet Ibrahim a.s., whose rank as Khalilullah places him among the highest of Allah's creation. Allah's protection over him extends into realms that Iblis cannot perceive or penetrate. Therefore, searching for the tomb of Ibrahim a.s. is not like searching for any ordinary location. It is like attempting to see through a veil placed by Allah Himself, a veil Iblis has no power to lift. Another crucial aspect is that Iblis does not possess independent knowledge of the unseen. He cannot see the future, read divine decrees, or access divine secrets. His knowledge is limited, fragmented, and often based on observation rather than revelation. So even though he may roam freely, he cannot perceive what Allah chooses to conceal. The tomb of Ibrahim a.s. exists within this divine concealment. It is known to Allah, honored by Him, and protected through His command. No matter how much Iblis searches, he cannot break the boundaries that Allah has set. Thus, the inability of Iblis to locate the resting place of Ibrahim a.s. reflects a critical truth in Islamic belief. Satan has influence only where Allah allows it, and Allah does not allow him near His prophets. Beyond the physical world that humans see, Islamic teachings describe an unseen realm filled with spiritual laws, angelic forces, and divine protections. Certain locations on earth, especially those connected to the prophets, are surrounded by metaphysical barriers that cannot be crossed by Iblis or any evil force. Understanding these unseen protections helps explain why the tomb of Prophet Ibrahim a.s. remains unreachable to Iblis. In Islam, every place holds a different spiritual atmosphere. Some locations attract mercy, tranquility, and blessings, while others are associated with corruption or evil. Sacred sites such as the Kaaba, the Prophet's Mosque, and the graves of certain prophets are not only historically important but spiritually fortified. These fortifications are not visible or measurable in a physical sense. They exist as divine safeguards established by Allah. Prophet Ibrahim, A.S., being one of the most honored prophets, is associated with several of these sacred spaces. He helped raise the foundations of the Kaaba, established rites that millions of pilgrims continue to follow, and left behind a legacy of profound monotheism. His connection to these holy places is not limited to his lifetime. It extends into the unseen world, forming a form of spiritual protection that Iblis cannot access. These metaphysical barriers are shaped by divine command. They function similarly to how angels protect believers from spiritual harm, or how verses of the Quran repel shayatin when recited. But in the case of the prophets, the protection is far greater, more profound, and reinforced directly by Allah's will. The unseen protection around the tomb of Ibrahim, A.S., is believed to be so strong that even the presence of Iblis is barred from approaching it. Just as he cannot enter certain blessed places without being repelled, he cannot break through the protective veil surrounding a prophet's resting place. This is not due to lack of ability, but because the laws of the unseen world do not permit him to cross boundaries set by Allah. Another essential point is that sacred sites often serve as centers of light and guidance. They are connected to angelic activity, divine remembrance, and spiritual tranquility. Iblis, being a creature of rebellion and darkness, is repelled by such environments. The closer he attempts to draw near, the stronger the spiritual force that pushes him away. This further prevents him from locating the tomb of Ibrahim, A.S., even if he were to attempt it. Thus, the metaphysical barriers around the resting places of the prophets demonstrate that Allah protects what is sacred not only physically, but spiritually. The tomb of Ibrahim, A.S., is not hidden simply by distance or geography. It is shielded by divine protection that no evil being can penetrate. The concealment of some prophetic graves, including that of Prophet Ibrahim, A.S., is not merely a historical mystery. It is part of a greater divine wisdom. Throughout Islamic history, there are cases where Allah allowed the resting places of certain prophets to be known, while others were deliberately hidden. Understanding this pattern of concealment helps explain why Iblis is unable to locate the tomb of Ibrahim, A.S. One key wisdom behind hiding certain graves is the protection of pure monotheism. Even among communities with strong belief, there is always the risk that people may fall into exaggerated respect or practices that resemble worship. Throughout past civilizations, graves of religious figures often became places of superstition, ritual innovations, or even idolatry. Allah, in His infinite wisdom, sometimes conceals the burial sites of prophets to prevent such practices from developing. The concealed burial of Prophet Musa, A.S., is a well-known example. The Prophet Muhammad, Sa'd, informed us that Allah hid the grave of Musa, A.S., to prevent people from misusing it. In a similar way, the grave of Ibrahim, a figure loved by Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike, holds an immense symbolic power. Concealing its exact location prevents it from becoming a site of misuse or distortion, preserving the purity of his message. Another layer of wisdom relates to the universal role of Prophet Ibrahim, A.S. He is not associated with one particular location or nation. Rather, he is the father of many prophets, the builder of the Kaaba, and a central figure in the religious identity of both Arabs and non-Arabs. His teachings are not tied to his burial site. Instead, his legacy lives in the rituals of Hajj, in the tradition of sacrifice, in the Kaaba he helped build, and in the Quranic guidance he left behind. If his tomb were known, people might shift their focus from his teachings to the physical location itself. Furthermore, by concealing certain graves, Allah reminds us that the true honor of the prophets lies not in the soil that covers their bodies, but in the guidance they delivered. Their mission was never tied to monuments or shrines. It was tied to the revelation, wisdom, and commandments they brought. This redirection of attention protects the spiritual integrity of their message across time. From a spiritual perspective, hiding the tomb of Ibrahim a.s. also serves as a barrier against corruption by Iblis. If people were to misuse the site, fall into innovation, or develop practices not aligned with the Quran and Sunnah, Iblis would exploit those tendencies. By concealing the location altogether, Allah closes the door to such influence. Thus, the concealment of Ibrahim's tomb is part of a broader divine strategy to preserve monotheism, protect the prophetic legacy from misuse, and safeguard believers from falling into practices that could undermine their faith, while simultaneously ensuring that Iblis has no access to this sacred site. The question of why Iblis cannot locate the tomb of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam is not just a historical or theological curiosity. It carries deep lessons for every Muslim seeking to strengthen their faith. The divine protection placed upon Ibrahim alayhi salam reflects broader principles about Allah's power, mercy, and the spiritual safeguards available to believers today. By examining these lessons, we gain insight into how to navigate a world where unseen forces exist, yet remain powerless against Allah's command. One of the most important lessons is that Allah protects whom He wills in ways that no creature can overcome. The prophets received the highest form of divine protection, but believers are not excluded from this mercy. The Quran reminds us that Allah defends those who believe, especially when they remain sincere, steadfast, and obedient. While we may not experience protection at the same scale as the prophets, we are still guarded through remembrance, prayer, and righteous actions. Another lesson is understanding that Iblis only has influence where humans grant him an opening. The fact that he cannot even locate the tomb of Ibrahim alayhi salam demonstrates the limits of his power. His influence does not come from strength, but from human neglect in worship, in reflection, and in discipline. When a believer maintains a strong connection with Allah, follows the guidance of the Quran, and remembers Allah regularly, the doors through which Iblis whispers become closed. Just as divine barriers protect the prophets, spiritual habits protect the everyday believer. The concealment of Ibrahim's tomb also teaches us about the importance of preserving purity in worship. Islam emphasizes direct worship of Allah without intermediaries or physical objects being elevated beyond their rightful status. By hiding certain graves, Allah preserves pure monotheism and prevents practices that could lead people away from the core message of Islam. This lesson encourages us to focus not on places or symbols, but on revelation, obedience, and sincerity. Additionally, the topic reminds us that the unseen world operates under precise divine laws. Even the jinn and shayatin must obey Allah's boundaries. Their knowledge is not absolute, their access is not unlimited, and their abilities do not compare to the will of Allah. This strengthens our understanding that fear of Iblis is unnecessary when one trusts in the Creator. With faith and reliance on Allah, a believer stands under a protection that no unseen being can penetrate. Finally, the story underscores the enduring honor of Prophet Ibrahim. His legacy is protected not by monuments or physical markers, but by the impact of his message: monotheism, sacrifice, patience, and unwavering devotion. Knowing that Allah shields his legacy from corruption encourages us to value the spiritual teachings he left behind, rather than fixating on physical details like the location of his tomb. In the end, the lessons drawn from this topic reinforce a powerful truth. Allah's protection is perfect, His wisdom is complete, and His control over the unseen is absolute. Understanding this helps us live with confidence, peace, and trust in His divine plan.